All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Studio Technologies Intercom Solutions webinar presented by TC Furlong. We're happy that everyone can join us here today. Before we get started, I'd like to make some quick introductions. So first off, I'm Brian Grahn with the TC Furlong sales and marketing team. I'm going to be your host for the day. Happy New Year to everyone. For those not familiar, TC Furlong is a Chicago area-based live sound company. We handle everything from equipment sales and rentals to live event production and a handful of services, including system design and alignments, repairs, RF coordinations, and more. So today we are joined by longtime industry colleague and friend of the company, Gordon Kapes. Hi, Gordon. How are you today?
Excellent. Thanks for having me.
Gordon is the president of Studio Technologies based here in Skokie, Illinois. Before we dive into the webinar, I do have some housekeeping. We are recording today's webinar, and we will be posting later to our YouTube page. So we'll make sure to send a link out to all registrants once that is posted. We're not going to be monitoring the chat of today's webinar for questions. If you have questions, please submit them through the Q&A feature on Zoom. And lastly, we do have a planned Q&A portion at the end of the webinar today, but please submit your questions as we go. We can help prioritize some questions to pose over the course of the webinar as well. All right, so I think we're ready to jump into it here. So today we're going to be talking about digital Partyline intercom solutions. So Gordon, why don't we start with the basic anatomy of an analog Partyline system and how that translates to these Dante-based digital systems?
Sure. I had some experience with analog systems, and then we became a licensee for Dante about 5 years ago. And you know, as we started to ship our equipment, people said, we're putting our Dante equipment on our standard Ethernet networks, which are really ubiquitous everywhere now, and more facilities have them in place. And I thought, why the separate wiring? Why the limitations of analog Partyline? And why not think about offering products that let people use the Dante technology, which is very popular now? But I want to talk about analog because it does work. And I know that TC Furlong, you sell a lot of it. You have a lot of it in rental. It's very easy to use. As a reference, we bought some too, just for our lab. So I thought, let me set up a small Partyline system. And while I do it, I can talk about things that most of you know about, but just kind of give some background. So I've set up my work table back here. And I have a Clearcom master station, and I take it out of the box. It's very simple. I connect power. Throw the power switch, unit starts up, you see some lights. And then I've got some belt packs, right? And these are the older generation, but very popular. You see these everywhere, right? Theaters especially. So definitely. What does it take to do this? I take an XLR cable. I plug it into one of the outputs. I connect it up. And the belt pack is now working. Now you have a master station and one single channel belt pack. And now you said, okay, I have 2 camera operators because I'm at a junior college and we're going to have 2 cameras to do an event. So all you have to do is take the loop through connector, connect that up, go to your next belt pack, and you're done. Now you have a Partyline, right? You've got a master station and you've got 2 belt packs. Obviously, you need something for the user to use. And I've got here a single earpiece, single muff, uses a 4-pin female XLR. I plug it into the belt pack and away I go. So over a single XLR, you have pin 1 common, you have power on pin 2, and then you have audio for everybody, talk and listen on pin 3. And what Clearcom did, it's fairly clever. What happened in the 1970s, they put a DC voltage on the audio pin, and that's how call works. They ramp up and down the DC so you don't hear a click, and that's how when you press call, you see the light up there, and you'll see it light up because over the audio path, you have DC. So that's a traditional audio system. And they call it PL, Partyline. They also call it two-wire. The idea being that like an old-time phone, which had a pair of wires for talk and listen, this uses a pair, common and pin 3 in this case, to do audio. And it works good. The problem is when you get longer cable runs, the high frequency can roll off, it can get noisy. A lot of issues come into play. When you add more channels, it gets pretty unwieldy, but it does work. And so, you know, a lot of people are familiar with it. You can add some accessories. This is a beacon. This is a Clearcom beacon. The light, a strobe light can flash. You can have a little tone that responds to the call signal. So that's the background. And one other thing, if you have some experience in broadcast, or maybe you're a broadcast person, this is a 2-channel analog belt pack from RTS called the BP325, very common on broadcast trucks. And what they do is over a single XL, and Stan Hubler and another guy, very clever, who developed this, they put 2 channels of audio over 1 cable. They put common on pin 1, power with audio superimposed. It's old amplitude modulation. You're just taking DC and you're putting the analog waveform on it. And then on pin 3, it's only channel 2 audio. So over a single XLR analog 2 channels, they call it the TW or 2-wire, don't ask me why, 2-wire TW system. And how do they do signaling? Probably like a call light. They probably maybe ran into a patent issue, but they use high frequency. So they use 20 kilohertz for call and 24 kilohertz as a mic kill signal. So that's really the background of analog. And headsets, we've talked about a single ear with a 4-pin XLR. I also want to show you what's commonly used in the broadcast world, and that's the double ear, right? Left and right ear with a boom, and a male 5-pin XLR. So if you're out in the field and you're thinking, what am I seeing? There really aren't very many different headphone choices. So you'll see it with single channel Clearcom. It's typically on the headset, a 4-pin XL female. In the broadcast world, 2 channels, it's typically a XLR 5-pin male. All right, so
Gordon,
Brian,
I'm just going to jump in real
everything's
quick.
going, okay.
Yeah, and so now that we've kind of talked about you know, the basics of the analog, I just want to kind of recap. So the most important thing I think with the Clearcom system is we're talking about a single XLR 3-pin cable that can connect multiple belt packs together, can get split in different directions, but you're only able to carry the Partyline channel of 1 channel over that for the Clearcom system.
You know, I think that's fair.
Cable.
Now, Clearcom offers 2-channel versions with a 6-pin XLR. They offer RTS compatible with the TW 2-channel, but essentially, if you go to theaters or, you know, older venues for sports events, traditional Clearcom is single channel, tried and true, works fine, but it can be very difficult to troubleshoot long cable runs, hums, noise, so that there are limitations to it.
Or repatching a user station, for instance, to a different channel involves running a different cable or a new connection there. There's no programming that you could do over the analog Partyline.
Well, I mean, traditionally, that's right. You'll be patching cables and, you know, going behind racks and trying to do it that way. So that's some background. Now, what I thought I would tear this down, and then I'll tell you where we're coming from on how to do a basic system. All right, so let's say that you're doing a new junior college black box theater, and somebody asks you to help them design it. And Nothing wrong with traditional Clearcom analog or other people's, or Riedel does some of this stuff, RTS, but you're probably going to have an Ethernet network. You may very well have a console that's Dante compatible. So the idea of offering to this theater space Dante products is not going to seem out there anymore. 5 years ago, it would have. So let's say that you've just liked a few of the technical personnel to be linked and you'd like to get started on this idea of doing Dante Partyline. We put together, Studio Technologies put an offering where we have what we call a Dante Intercom audio engine. I'll show it to you physically in a minute, and 4 belt packs in one kit. And I'm going to show you with my screen share function, I'm going to show you a drawing that we did. Brian, is that clear to see?
That's great.
Okay, good. So this is available on our website, and all this is showing is how you could have a 4-user intercom system based on your existing Ethernet network, but we're showing it in the simplest form. We're showing at the top a model 5421 Dante Intercom audio engine. That's part of the kit. And then we're showing 4 of our model 373A belt packs. You'll see those on the left side, going into an Ethernet switch with PoE. Now, we support standard PoE, nothing special. This is low power, not PoE plus. This is go to your favorite vendor, call TC. You probably have it already. The same switches that power your PoE phones will power the belt packs. To configure the units, which you do once, you use our STcontroller application. I'll show you that in a minute. So you see a connection for configuration and a laptop computer. And so you said, okay, this looks pretty good. This is the way I'm going to get an introduction to using Intercom over Dante. So you call up TC Furlong, Brian gives you a quote, and I'm going to go back to my screen now, and they provide to you a box, right? They ship you a box, and it's going to look like this, okay? And hopefully with our new graphics on it soon, but I'm going to open this up and I'm going to show you, actually, I'm going to go over to my table now and I'm going to show you what it takes to set up a Dante-based digital Partyline intercom. And while I go over here, this is done in a local setting, right? But this could be over a whole stadium. This could be across campus as long as the Ethernet network is all in the same subnet. Just means the addresses are, let's say, contiguous, not contiguous, but in the same group. And so this could be at, our local big university is Northwestern, and they have multiple facilities, but they have their network all linked together. So what I show in a very compact area could be spread out. So in your black box theater, you could have Ethernet switches spread around the facility, backstage, this or that, and it would all apply. So let's start by taking the parts out of the kit. This is a half rack. You can order rack ears if you want. Dante Intercom audio engine. And I'm gonna tell you in a minute why this is the heart of our system. And then here's your 4 belt packs. These happen to be model 373As, and these are quite compact, power over Ethernet powered, and you get 4 of them. We don't provide the headsets because we don't want to be in the headset business. We think there's a lot of good headsets out, and we'll talk about those in a minute. So that's your kit. And I do want to take 1 second to talk about one of the main differences in Dante Intercom versus your analog Partyline. There's nothing inherently Partyline about our belt packs or Dante in general because the audio paths are independent. The send and receive are separate. And you might know it as 4-wire. That comes from telephone trunking when New York was connected to Schenectady by literally 4 wires, 2 pairs called 4-wire, a send and receive. So that's an independent audio path from me to you and a path back from you to me. So there's no way to directly create party lines, except we do it in the digital domain in this model 5421, which we'll hook up in a minute. We also offer larger units, and we'll talk about that later, which let you do more channels. So basically, each of these devices is really a 4-wire. It has a separate, in this particular unit, it has a talk out, it has a listen traditionally for that intercom channel, and it has a second listen in, which is very handy. And just as a quick aside, oftentimes people say, I need a 2-channel intercom. Fine, that's great. They can talk on 2 channels, but oftentimes for each individual user, they really want 1 talk channel and an extra listen, because that's where, if you have a Dante console, you can easily connect the output of that console, let's say with show audio or something like that, where that second channel is all you need to listen. Okay, so we've talked about the fact that these are really 4-wire devices, but we electronically make a Partyline, and to the user, it sounds great. It sounds like when I talk, everybody hears me. When any of those people talk, I hear it. But really, what we're creating in this intercom engine is a set of what we call mix minuses. That's, again, an old broadcast term, which is everything in the mix but me, because you don't want echo, you don't want level buildup. So basically, if you have 4 belt packs, which you see there, each user wants to hear everybody else, but not themselves directly. And I'll talk about how you hear themselves. So user 1 wants to hear user 2 through 4 at full level. User 2 wants to hear user 1, 3, and 4. Now, you want to be able to hear yourself so that you can confirm that you're, talking correctly at the right level. That's called side tone, as you know. And that's one of the issues with cell phones, why people traditionally speak so loud into cell phones, I do the same thing, is they don't have good side tone. Probably it takes power, or the engineers who designed those mobile equipment didn't understand that the louder you feed it back into your own ear, the more you control your own level. Okay, so we have side tone built into this unit that you can configure so that you hear yourself, but it doesn't come back from this mix minus circuit. So you hear yourself nice and clear right in time, because in digital world, there's always time delay. There's always latency. It's very small, but it can be something that could bother people if you hear yourself talk and it takes time to come back to you. Local side tone, you're going to hear immediately. So that's some of the background. Now, let's set this thing up. I'm going to take an Ethernet switch. This happens to be a Netgear, kind of a nice 8-port box. It also has a couple of SFP slots, actually 1 SFP slot, two SFP slots, which allow a fiber module, which can be $10 to $20, $30 on Amazon or your favorite supplier. TC Furlong can get it for you. So if you wanted to link 2 buildings via fiber, it's really quite simple now. I mean, obviously you have to pull the physical fiber, but the electronics are all meant to do that. So, for $20 an end, you can link 2 Ethernet switches at gigabit speed or faster doing it. So people say, do you have to have special switches? Not really. And I'm going to put this whole rig on our business network, because that's what I'm going to show you as a screen share soon. So right now, let's hook it up. I'm going to take my power cord that I used for the ClearCom unit. Okay. By the way, if people care, this is a ProSafe GS510TP. I don't even know if they make it anymore. And it has 8 PoE ports, and it says maximum of 30 watts per port, which means it's PoE plus, but you don't need it. And this supports gigabit Ethernet as well as 10 or 100. These devices are 100 megabit Ethernet. This device happens to be gigabit. Okay. So now I happen to have a lot of patch cords. So let's start patching.
And Gordon, I'm going to jump in here as well.
Yep.
If we're thinking back to the analog system that we set up just before this, a master station is handling the power that was being provided to the individual belt packs in that case. In this circumstance, the audio engine is doing all the mixing and all the real processing But that's just data connection to the switch, and the switch is the device that's actually providing power to each one of the user stations. Is that
Right.
correct?
So a switch in your lighting booth at the back of your theater could have the PoE capability, power over Ethernet PoE, and that typically is a 300-foot limit, but people typically don't want to go that far. So let's say that you have a switch in your lighting booth with the PoE connections, and you plug a couple belt packs into there, and then let's say that you have an equipment rack backstage where you might have some power amplifiers for the main system. You could put the 5421 in there. It's also PoE powered. And so you're right, it just does the digital audio work, has nothing to do with the power. So, you know, I've had this discussion with people. Where do you put this? Do you want this in building 3 in the stadium, or do you put it, you know, half a mile away on a campus? It doesn't matter. As long as it's on the same subnet, it absolutely doesn't matter. And if I can, the first thing actually I'm going to do is I'm going to link this switch into our business network here at the office. So I'm just going to plug it in, because that way my computer that we're doing the stream over is there. Now I got a nice purple cord to go to my Dante Intercom audio engine. I see some lights come up, right? I see system sync, sys and sync, and now it has just joined our Dante network. Lights are there. One green, it'll go green on sys in a minute. That's it. That's what it takes to install the unit. Now we'll do some configuration, very simple, but that's it. Now let's get the belt packs on. I'm going to go into switch port, and then I'm going to plug in. That's a patch cord, standard patch cord, okay? Going into the Ethercon connector, that's a protected RJ45 from Neutrik. Typically, people are using standard Ethernet cables. They're pretty reliable, but if you prefer a more flexible cable with a protected Ethernet connector, you can use it. They'll plug in here, they'll latch, they have a release tab. They're good. And the only other thing on the back of this is a headset connector, and we'll get to that in a minute. So I do want to connect these other 3 belt packs up, because I'm going to show you what it takes. Now, when I first did this afternoon, setting up for this presentation, I thought, oh, Dante Intercom, it's just as easy. Well, it's not. Doing a very basic analog intercom, if you had the wiring, is very simple, because there's really no configuration. The problem is what you set up once is what you get. Excuse me. That's it. You can't really expand. And later on, we're going to talk about all the great things you can do. So you've now set up a 4-user digital intercom. These happen to be on my table, but they could be spread out over a theater. They could be at a football game. They could be, well, you get the message. I won't belabor it. Now, we have belt packs that support different headsets. These happen to support the ClearCom style that have a 4-pin single ear. We released this so that if you want to upgrade an existing facility, and headsets are relatively expensive, and you said, really, I can't justify all new headsets, you can use this, and the ClearCom style with the 4-pin XL will plug right in, and you can talk and listen, and you do a mix of the 2 audio channels. And remember, one of them is going to be the intercom channel, and the second one can be a listen only, so that you can have a program going to that all the time. We also have a version of this called the 372A, which supports the 5-pin XL, which allows you to actually decide which ear gets what program. So you can do split ear. You could do intercom in left ear, program only in the right ear. It's more flexible, but the quality is the same, and it really just depends on how you view intercom. Do you want to stay within the, the more the ClearCom world with their headsets, or do you want to move into more I don't know if you want to say broadcast, but I like it having the independent left and right ear. I think it's quite powerful. Now, one of the things that we did, which is worth bringing up, is it's nice not to be in the headset business, so we don't really care what you choose. We don't have any skin in the game. So what we did is, maybe I'll hold it up here. If you can see it, there is a 3.5 millimeter jack on these units. And about 3 of our products have it. It's what we've been doing recently. And you might say, what's the big deal? Well, you can go to any of your consumer electronic providers, whether it's Amazon or somebody like that, and buy gaming headsets. And I've got 2 right here. So you can actually take a not bad $30 headset with a 4-pin TRRS, tip ring sleeve, 3.5 millimeter, and use that for your intercom rather than a, sorry, TC Furlong, $200, $300, $350 headset. Here's one. Here's another one that has the mic in the cord. Very simple, TRRS. Another reason has come up over the past 6 months, and everybody, COVID is everything, okay? But people have said to us, by offering 3.5 millimeter TRRS support, we can then buy a reasonably decent headset. And when people come to do a show, or a stage manager is coming to your black box, you can hand this person and say, Emily, this is your headset for the show. You use it, you keep it, you don't give it back to us. It's brand new, because then you don't have to worry about cleanliness or hygiene. And that has become a relatively big deal. If you have a $300 headset, you're either cleaning it between shows, or you're trying to get someone to buy their own. I don't think so. So having the TRRS is really a nice way to keep the cost down. So we'll do that.
And Gordon, the TRRS connection, that the 3.5 millimeter, is that cross compatible with standard earbuds as well, just without the microphone, if you were a listen only?
Absolutely. Yeah. You can do that. And it probably won't come into play, but let's say 5 years ago, there used to be 2 standards, but that's gone away. And so really TRRS is quite standard. Your laptop computer is going to have it. And you're right, with the contemporary standard, a listen only will go right in and it won't hurt anything.
Yeah. I've got our first question here from John. He asks, what type of cable would we recommend between belt pack and switch that spooled cat doesn't move nicely for mobile applications? I agree. And Gordon, I'll get your opinion here as well, but we like some of what is referred to as tactical Cat 5 in a lot of circumstances, offered by companies like Rapco. They have their DuraCat line. And what's great is that a lot of those companies will offer those with RJ45, heavy duty RJ45 connections, or even the Ethercon that you mentioned is on the belt packs themselves.
Good. And since I don't deal in wire and cable, Brian, what you've told me, it tracks perfectly with what I've heard. And what I've seen, I guess environmentally it's awful, but I've actually seen people deploy with standard network cabling. Was it John who had the question? I understand the feel of it, but they'll literally finish the show, disconnect from the packs or all the other equipment, and just leave. Now, I kind of don't like it from are you contributing to the issue of extra junk in the world? But it is interesting to say, having really nice flexible cable. I would do that in a permanent application in our black box theater. But if you're going to a show where you're worried about people stealing your cables or misplacing them, or you could just lay out cable, terminate RJ45s on it, use it for 3 days, and then leave. And I think you'll have, good performance. But choices. I
think especially for people that are going to be more mobile, having the durable tactical jacketing, which it's typically a standard plastic jacket cable inside, the same twisted pair cable. It's just the additional durability added to the outside with a rubber jacket.
Certainly, certainly that's a good thing. And you can get started with standard computer cable, and then as you deploy into the application, have custom cables made, and that's nice. Now, what I'd like to do is talk about how you configure our equipment. And there's two applications I mentioned. One is STcontroller. That is a piece of software that we've developed that allowed us to get rid of all dip switches, trim pots, and everything from our products, and allowed us to let an application that runs on a PC. Now I'm messing with my mic. Okay, here we go, my mouse. I'm going to show you STcontroller. All right. STcontroller is a Windows application or a Mac OS application that you can download free of charge from our website. And if you're at all interested in what we're doing, I recommend that you download it and run it in, see it says demo mode there. If you run it in demo mode, it shows all of the products that we offer. I went quickly, but it's 20 some products, and you can go to any product and see what you can configure, which is quite nice. And so I'm going to go back to normal mode. And what happens is our network went out and saw the devices that can be configured.
We've got a couple questions here, and
Yep.
I wanted to maybe we can address these while we're getting the system up and running. The first is from Adam Baxter, and he asks, can a wireless comm system be linked to this system? The answer is yes, and we're going to get into that, I think, a little bit more once we actually have set up the initial audio engine here. But that is through some interfacing that you could either send 4-wire or 2-wire Partyline to existing wireless comm systems to link them together as well.
Right, exactly. And, you know, this is a little bit embarrassing, but that's life. We've all been through this in shows. For some reason, there we go, perfect, it came back. Okay, fine. So if you see this little box, this is STM5421. These are the few choices that are available on this 5421. And I want to talk about the groups. And we're at 2:34, so I think we're at good time here, no problem. The model 5421 has up to 16 channels, and that means 16 inputs and outputs that can be assigned to channels on Dante devices. It happens that we have 4 belt packs. Each belt pack, the talk channel, right, has a send and listen. So each one, in a sense, is taking one channels of our group, a single channel of our group. One of the key things about Dante is every input and output is compatible with everybody else. So our model 5421 can also link into an audio console as well as our belt packs. I wanted to make sure you knew that. Now, the choice. Let's take those 16 channels. By default, we electronically chop them into 8 8-channel groups. And that means that 8 channels of talk, let's say that could be 8 users, can be on the first group and 8 users on the second group. You can also dice it up into 4, 4, 4, 4, or one big 16-channel group. This is something that you have to decide on the beginning. How am I going to lay out my system? I mentioned our full rack space model 5422. That has 32 or 2 groups of 32. So you can do a lot more channels, but for a smaller system, this is very easy. So we're going to leave it at the default. Also, with the release of this product last year, and also with recent firmware we released for the larger unit, there is very sophisticated auto mix built in. This is similar to Shure's IntelliMix and other automatic mixing that you might be familiar with. This is not noise gating. This is not, you know, a basic thing. This is full auto mix that you'd find, you know, sometimes people use Dan Dugan, a very fine product for auto mixing. This is a different method that we use, but it is just as sophisticated, and we do this in programmable logic. My contention is that if you use our gear, you will have the best Partyline audio in existence. It's a big claim, but we spent a long time with this auto mix, very sophisticated. It defaults to on, but you can also turn it off for testing. And basically what it does is it helps level out whether it's one user or multiple users. It could be all 16 users. That's how many different auto mix logic engines inside this product we have. Very intense amount of logic, but it works really very well. So there's the things you can do with the 5421 to set it up. So we're going to leave it as default. And then we happen to have our 4 belt packs. I already named them: lights, sound, spotlight, stage manager. This is what you can do with each device. And this is, the device is called, by the way, in Dante, you literally name the devices. So as far as Dante is concerned, this is called lights. You power down, you power up. It holds both the names and all the configurations. It holds what you configure using STcontroller, and it also holds the routes, which we're going to get to in a minute. So let me just go really quick on this. What can you do with each belt pack? And what I find interesting about this is a small, simplistic belt pack, right? Not terribly expensive, works very well. You have a lot of control over what you can do. You can turn on power for a mic. Some headsets have need 5-volt or low voltage power. You can set the gain of the headset. That can match the microphone, or it can match a user who speaks very loudly, or someone who is in a position out in the audience and they have to whisper. You can crank up the gain. The headphone output, you define where the headphone output routes to, which channels it goes to, left, right, or left and right. In the case of a single channel belt pack, you would really just get the left, but it has that. Side tone, we've talked about side tone. That is hearing your own microphone in your earpiece. And you can choose it to be off, or you can set different levels. And then the last thing is you can select how the button works. It can be push to talk, tap to latch, which is kind of a traditional, interesting intercom thing where you can push and hold to talk, or you can tap it to latch. You can also do standard latching, or you can do just push to talk. Why would you want push to talk? Because unless you're the stage manager, you may not want someone to be able to lock their mic on. You may want them to have to push and do that. Okay, so I've talked about the configuration choices for the 2 devices we have on our test network. But if you go to our demo mode, you can see everything else. I'm sorry, all of our other products and what features they let you do. So I'm going to stop screen share for a minute, say hello again. And now I'm going to show you the last part of making your intercom system work, is how you use Dante Controller, which is a product from Audinate, the people who developed Dante. They're in Australia, in the Sydney area. They have free of charge Dante Controller, and that's available for Windows, Mac, and I think they also offer a Linux version of it. So let's screen share over to, I'll screen share there and I'll show you Dante Controller. Okay, now, if you've used this, you're familiar with it. If you hadn't, this is the standard way of doing what Dante calls subscriptions, which I call routes, right? Audio sends and receives. And what you have to remember, again, you'll get it quickly, is it's all 4-wire. It's all separate send and receive paths. So typically a console, well, just like your cables, you have an output and an input. In the terms of intercom, you no longer have a party line, you have an independent send and receive. So right now on the receivers, you see my mouse there. Ignore the D-scopes. Those are our test systems in our building here that we use. So we're going to just ignore those. Consider those consoles or something else that you've got. Now, interestingly enough, here's the names of your devices, same as STcontroller showed: light, sound, spotlight, stage manager, and then the model 5421. Okay, you could have renamed that. It's fine. It could say, Dante engine or something like that, that's fine. So these are the inputs. Over here are all the Dante outputs. And in addition to our D-scopes and our 4 belt packs and our Dante Intercom audio engine, you have a CD player, which we keep in our building, and we're always running a high quality CD, so we know we have audio. So I'm just going to show you how I already routed this earlier today because I knew we might run out of time. And I'm going to do this, and you spend your life expanding the channels, but it's no big deal. Okay, let's see, how did I do here? Stage manager, okay. Talk. All right. We'll expand that. That's the big one. And we'll expand that. Remember we talked about how the Model 5421 has 16 channels? Let's look at the transmitters. And remember that the default was 2 groups of 8 channels. Well, here's A01 through A08 for Group A and B01 through B08 for Group B. Those are the 2, in a sense, Partyline groups. You don't have to use all the capability. You don't have to route to channels 6, 7, and 8, but they're available, and you've, in a sense, assigned that resource. Okay, then let's look at the Stage Manager belt pack. Well, there's only a talk channel because remember I said these units have 1 talk and 2 listen. So here's the Stage Manager with 1 talk, and here's the Stage Manager's listen part, and there are headphone 1 and headphone 2. So what have I done? And I can expand this so you see it bigger. What I've done is I've taken our CD player, right here, CD player channel 1, and I have assigned to the belt packs listen channel 2 to the CD player's output. And in this case, I assigned it to 2. I assigned it to lights and sound, so they can now hear that 1 channel of audio. That's how easy it is to start linking it into your system. Then let's talk about how we made a party line. I took the first 4 channels of Group A and assigned those to headphone listen 1 of all 4 boxes. You see this checkbox here, here, and it shows you what it is here and here. That takes the group. Those are all mixed minuses going to the listen of the belt pack. Now, the belt pack talk go into inputs on the Dante engine. So basically, for every channel, there's 2 connections, and it's not overwhelming you. It just takes a little practice. But what I've done here is all 4 belt packs can communicate with each other, and 2 of them can also hear 2 of the channels from the CD player. And I can show you how easy it is to have, let's say CD player channel 2, you want to go to the Stage Manager. Let's say that's really a console house feed. You're going to see my X turn green. It goes red in a minute. Oh, I know why it's red. It's okay, because my CD player output can't support more than 2 connections. But it tells you your console, whether it's Yamaha or another one, would support many more connections. So that's what went on there. So you've now successfully created this 4 belt pack system. And hopefully you see some of the advantages now in that. 1, the audio quality is great. And now you're ready to do some fun stuff. Now we're 46 minutes into this presentation, and I understand if some of you said, hey, look, I gotta go. You've just seen the basics of setting it up. And Brian, you can run the event now, but there are so many things, now that we have the basics down, there are so many things you can do easily that really you couldn't do with an analog system.
Yeah, so we've got a lot of great questions here. But before we jump into that, I want to go back to the Dante routing. And, the way I think about this is it's kind of a mix between a matrix system with kind of 4-wire connections that you're able to repatch through Dante Controller, but it's a matrix of different party lines in the end. Is that right?
I
Is that a
think
way of thinking about it?
I think it is. You pick your groups for the size that you want. Now, can you on the fly change it? Sure. The only problem is if you went from 2 8s to a 16, it breaks down all your connections automatically. Sure. Dante just does that, but it doesn't harm anything. You just have to say, okay, I go back and reroute it. But yes, you create your, in a sense, your sub matrix, whether it's 4-channel, 8-channel, 16.
That's great. So we've got a lot of questions here, and I think I'm going to categorize in the two categories right now. One is about expanding, so larger systems, and the other is about on and off ramps to Partyline. So kind of going back to connecting wireless systems, connecting existing analog Partyline. But let's start with the scalability. David had asked, what does a 16 or 24 headset system look like? How many packs can we get wired in to that's the 5421 engine? So I believe the answer is 16 belt packs can be supported on the 5421.
Well, it could be. The best way of looking at it is take your belt pack, and we offer 5 different ones. We offer 2 versions of what I've shown you here, which is 1 talk and 2 listens. The difference just being the headset connector. We offer 2 versions of a 2 talk, 2 listen, where you get the choice of headset connector. And then we offer a 4-channel belt pack. Sure. And you really have to say, of the 16 channels on a 5421, take the number of talk channels on your belt pack, add them all up, and that kind of gives you a feel. So if you had 8 2-channel belt packs, you kind of need 16 channels.
Sure.
But that wouldn't be a great thing because you'd be out of resources. That's why many times people will jump to our larger. I'm not pushing this. I'm just saying is 5421 is great if you know you're going to stay relatively small. For example, if you want 6 belt packs, 2-channel belt packs, that would take 12 of the 16 channels, and then keep a few channels for linking to your audio console or, a listen channel in your green room. But this unit will do 32 channels or 2 groups of 32 if you buy it that way. So, and if you want to go really extensive, you can, in Dante Controller, go back to back on 1 channel, and you could have 62 single channel belt packs all connected together, all with great audio. So the question is really good. It's really thinking about how many discrete channels do I want? How many discrete channels, meaning how many users communicating among themselves?
Yeah.
How many users on a party line, and then how many party lines, add it all up, and that'll give you a feel. And then also you have to decide, how do you want the user physically to have access? Do you want them to have 2 talk channels? We were very surprised. We did the 4-channel belt pack, our Model 374A, for WWE, the wrestling people, who interestingly enough are really great people. While if you watch their show, you think, oh, it's chaos. They're really very professional, very family oriented. I won't go into it, but they're really nice people. That's their show, right? Their show is wrestling, and that's entertainment. But professionally, they're great. They came to us and said, we want 4 channels in a belt pack. I said, why? Well, because we want 2 to talk and then 2 to monitor audio channels. So sure. That was an application where they said, and if you do it, we'll buy it. And they did. And they have over 100 of our devices all connected together and do it that way. So I would say, you could do 62 single channels all together. But realistically, I think in most cases, people are doing 3, 5, 8. Brian, you'd know better from the sales side, but.
Well, and I think going back to David's question here about kind of the scalability, if you were to need more users with, more channels, is it possible to bridge multiple audio engines together to share Partyline channels across the 2?
It is, but again, you can do 62 in 1 unit. And sure. So that's huge. And the trend I've found is to have more independent channels with less users on it. So lighting might have, 6 users. Pyrotechnics might have 7 users. Maybe there's a common channel, like a show running channel, that the stage manager can talk to everybody. But as far as individuals talking to each other, I've seen it to be smaller groups of people. I can tell you that I was at Universal in Hollywood where NBC was doing one of their live musicals, and the guy who was using our gear had 6 audio engines, each one had set for a 32 channel group. So he had 12 32 channel groups just so that he could always do what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was overkill. Hey, I love to see all the gear, but it all worked together. It worked fine. And he could, without redoing the groups, move across. So we are not, but let me just say, we're not trying to compete with the Matrix intercom systems. Okay. I think we offer a really wonderful medium to smaller opportunity to link your communications, your on-air audio. If you were doing sports broadcast, we haven't talked about that and probably won't get time today to do it, but your consoles, things like that. But if you need a Matrix intercom in your theater or your broadcast center, right on, you can add, do that. You can add us on to Riedel, RTS, whatever, but we're really trying to, put Partyline on steroids and link into everything else.
Yeah. Well, let's get into connecting Dante systems into analog Partyline. And I know you told me a story before about follow spots, for instance. This also, I think, will apply to different wireless comm systems that might only have Partyline inputs to bridge between the two. What is the solution in the Studio Tech utility box for that?
Sure. We have 2 products, the Model 45 DR, R being for RTS. That's the 2-channel over 1 3-pin XLR. And also the Model 45 DC, which supports 2 single-channel ClearComm Partyline. So it's the same size as the Model 5421, that half rack format. And all you have to do is plug a PoE connection into the unit, or 12 volts, but PoE is nice. And then just connect your Partyline to it, and it takes the Partyline and separates the send and receive. It does what's called the 2-wire to 4-wire conversion, and then sends and receives those channels out the Dante network. And people use that all the time. Let's say somebody like WWE keeps one of each in their rack so that when they get into a venue, they're able to link into the existing Partyline system. Or someone transitions between a ClearComm and a theater and they want to start doing Dante, they don't have to scrap the analog. They can do it. Now, there are certain places where it's nice just to say, we're retiring our analog PL, or we're going to move it all to this theater and start here with Dante. But what I found is that places that physically are difficult to wire, they leave the analog in. And one of those places is follow spots. In big arenas and things, if they have a cable run to the follow spot positions in the catwalk, they want to leave it. They're not really excited about running Dante up to there. Well, so you end up with a single connector I'm holding in my hand that says that's linking to all the follow spot positions. You can plug that into one of our converters. Traditionally, it's ClearComm for those kind of theatrical based systems. And you can then convert to Dante, and those people can enjoy the benefits of their existing wiring while getting into the Dante system.
Great. Just going to go through a couple more questions here. Shelton had asked, does the 5421 need Dante for input, or can an analog Partyline be plugged in, and how does the analog system get added? So that would be the 45 DC. So you could start in the analog world with a master station, for instance, with your follow spots, and then connect that into the Dante system, like a 5421. And really, since it's Partyline, there's no master to the Partyline, right? I mean, you're just sharing audio across both systems.
Right. And in direct answer to his question, to your question you're watching, is we decided not to put analog support on any of these boxes, because you can buy input and output converters from analog, whether it's going from Partyline or a console that only has analog ins and outs. We wanted to keep our units very purpose-driven, so that in 5 years, when you've transitioned away from analog, you don't have a whole back panel full of connectors and you're going, I paid for all this stuff and I don't use it. I've seen products like that. 5421 has a single RJ45. That's it. So if you need some analog in and out, you can get interfaces from us. You can get it from other people and go that route.
That's great. All right. So kind of going quickly through some of these. David asked, please give more info on the auto mix, as in mic is always live, but only broadcasts to all when spoken into. That would be bad for me on some days.
No, the channels are always on, but the algorithm is looking for their level relative to each other. Okay.
Sure.
And so the last mic on always locks on. So you're not doing the noise gating stuff. So if I'm the stage manager and I'm the last one talking, it maintains my level awaiting my talking. If I start to talk and then Brian has to kick in, it's going to adjust the level so that the users will hear a well-adjusted level. Now, if I stop and Brian keeps going, I come down, Brian stays here, and now he's the last person to talk. So
yeah, I think the question also was the mic, the Dante routing input is always going to be live in the auto mix, but there is still a talk switch that would kill the microphone into the Dante system. Is that correct?
If you've, depending on how you configure it and depending on how the user is using it. Yeah, you're correct.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Next question from Jack Netter asks, can multiple engines bridge subnets?
Okay, that's a really great question about Dante. And let me tell you that right now, as far as I know, the only way to bridge subnets is a couple of ways. One is to use a relatively, it's a quite sophisticated product from Audinate called Dante Domain Manager. And it's a licensed product that works very well. It's very good on security, so that if your corporation or university has very severe, as a good idea to be, security issues, Dante Domain Manager will do security as well as linking across subnets. We offer 2 hardware devices. We offer a Model 48D, which will link 4 channels in each direction across 2 independent networks. So those could be two subnets, and we will bridge those with sample rate conversion, but full isolation. We also make a really nice Model 5482 Dante bridge, which does 64 channels from 2 separate Dante networks. So we do that, and that's really the way you can link it. And then there's a product, and we won't talk about it today, but just for your own research, if you want to link sites across country, across town, you can use a product from Unity Intercom called Unity Connect. It allows 64 channels of audio from Mac to Mac across the internet. And then I'll go fast because you can look this up later. You use Dante Virtual Sound Card on each end to get those channels to Dante. And then that way at the 2 ends, our gear could be used. Over the coming year, there may be other products out that will help you bridge, but for now, that's kind of how you do it.
Yeah. I want to get into some of the additional Dante enabled devices that we could, interface with in the intercom systems. Josh has 2 questions first, though. I think one of those might be answered here. Is there a belt pack with full 2-channel operation, so talk and listen, plus a program listen? So 2 talk, 3 listen.
There's not 2 talk, 3 listen. These 2 are, if you can see it, good. Okay, 2 talk and 2 listen with the different headset connectors. And then I don't have it here with me, but there's the Model 374A, which has 4 talks and 4 listens. And you can set up the listens also, instead of the button being a push to talk, you can have that be a listen on and off. And I know that WWE takes the 4th channel, has a program feeding everybody. And that way you can turn on and off with the button. You can keep your level control at the same level and turn it on or off. So to answer your question, no, not exactly the configuration you'd need, but you jump to the 374A to have 4 talks and 4 listens and flexibility. If you want to see, is it Josh? Did Josh ask that? Josh, if you want to see exactly what you can do, download our STcontroller, go to the demo mode, and then find the 374A, and you'll see all the choices you can have to make it be a talk or listen or a combo.
And Josh's second question was, can you customize the size of the user groups? And I think that also in the demo mode, you would be able to see the user group options that are built into each of the audio engines.
Right, exactly. In the 5421, I think it's, 4 groups of 4, 2 groups of 8, 12 and 4, whatever. If you look at the, you can't do it from STcontroller because it's web controlled, but the data sheet on our website for the model 5422A, that's the new version of it, shows that you can take those 32 channels and dice them up, anything from group, I think you can do 16 groups of, well, I know you can do 8 groups of 4 up to 1 group of 32. So yes, you can do what you need.
So going from there, I think, going back to the Dante controller element, a lot of what we're talking about is the engine doing the mix minuses to create these party lines and these different groups within the engine. But since it's a Dante enabled device, you can connect Dante inputs like the CD player, for instance, into the engine or potentially directly to belt packs. Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely. You could go belt pack to belt pack if you just wanted to. You could go console to belt pack if you simply said, I'd like my house manager to be able to hear and talk back to the console. You can do that. You can take, frankly, you can take a Symmetrix or something like that. If you have a DSP processor already part of a job and you said, we don't have the budget for a separate one, you can create your own mix minus groups. That's how we modeled the 5422. We bought a Symmetrix box from TC Furlong, and we used that to model what we were doing. Now, what's the advantage of ours? You take it out of the box, you plug it in, it's dedicated to do it, and it does a lot more functions. The larger one does a lot more functions.
Well, and I'm thinking of situations where a monitor engineer would typically take a Partyline dry out box and put that into their console so they could add it into their Q Edge, for instance. In this case, you could just make a Partyline connection straight from the engine to a Dante enabled console, like a Yamaha console, and they could pull that off of one channel automatically into the desk. Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely. I spoke with a gentleman at a university the other day, and he wanted to do a small sports on-air application because I think they were doing like ESPN3, is that the more regional shows?
Sure.
And he wanted to use Dante. Again, I'll go quick, I'm sorry, but you can rewatch it or take some notes. But what he ended up wanting is some belt packs. So he was going to get some Model 370As, what I just showed you for 2 channels. He was going to get the 32 channel version of the engine. And then he was going to get 2. This is our on-air announcer console. Very small, as you can see. Dante connection, microphone headset. He was going to get 2 of these plus a spare for his play-by-play and color commentator plus a spare. Then he was going to have an Ethernet switch linked by fiber to their little truck. And in the truck, they were going to use our Model 348. I love this product. This is our little 8-channel intercom station. And every one of these 8 channels can be a talk and a listen, or it can be a listen only. It can also be talent queuing, which you might know as IFB. This will generate 8 IFBs. So he was going to use this to talk to his intercom users, talk to his his announcer console users. He was going to talk to ESPN via an audio link, and he was going to listen here. You can plug a belt pack in. I'm sorry, you can plug a headset in, whether it's a professional or a TRRS, and this is PoE powered. So we don't have time today, but that could come right off of our Ethernet switch, which we used a few minutes ago. And now all of a sudden, your basic 4-user system can now have a master station. So a stage manager can talk to them. And let's say for a green room, you said, wow, we need a speaker to be able to tell the talent that they're ready. This is where, to me, the fun comes in with Dante and what we're doing. You can take our Model 391 Dante alerting unit, you connect PoE Ethernet off of your network, you spend some time configuring this because it'll do a lot, and now the light can light up, you can have audio come out when you press a button on a belt pack, or the Model 348, you can say, talk to the green room, you can say, the example I give, and I don't know if it's real, but it's really easy to do the basic functions, right? Have 4 people talk together. But when someone comes and says, during rehearsal, we'd like a light to light outside the doors of the theater with a sign that says rehearsal in progress. And you go, not so easy. You know, I mean, do you want to take a light bulb and plug it into the wall? No, I don't think so. You could put this on a mic stand, connect a PoE cable to it, and you could configure it in literally 5 minutes to when the stage manager hits a button on that Model 348, this starts flashing in whatever color you want. It's RGB, red, green, blue LEDs. So it's really about letting you start being able to execute on your goals that you pretty much have said, no, we can't really do that. So
yeah. And, going back to the 8-channel user station, that just would show up in Dante Controller as 8 ins and 8 outs, correct? So you could
actually, it shows up as 11 outs and 16 ins. But
oh wow, yeah. So there's a lot of different routing options, whether it's in and out of the engine or through different IFB, or even to just A to D converters, right? If you wanted to cue audio through that would actually come out like a stage announce, or other 4-wire connections.
Right. I saw a picture of this, one of the first Model 348s. It kind of knocked me out because I didn't even know the guy was doing it. He had a bunch of digital recorders. I think he was recording live events, like whether it would be, jam band kind of shows, where he was doing dozens and dozens of audio channels into digital recorders. He would just hit start and the hard disk would record it. He took a 348, ran the signals through it, and then he could do all his slating with it. There was no easier way. He was doing all Dante, one connection, and now he could slate 8 separate hard disk systems with buttons off of that. So
that's great. So we are already at 3:10 right now. So I think this might be a good place to wrap it up. I know there's still so many other products in the Studio Technologies Dante enabled product line, as well as additional intercom accessories. So maybe we can do this again here soon.
Sure. And, if people want to dig into some more involved applications, just please send Brian some questions, and it would be fun to do another hour if you have either some more involved questions, or if you want to dig into some of the basics of intercom, because frankly, the world needs more intercom experts because it's sort of a dying art. And it took me years to get it together, and I'd be happy to share just more about the headsets you'll see and how to test and things like that. So intercom shouldn't be a drag. It's really kind of fun, especially since if you do it well, people are so amazed. They're like, this is great. Intercom never sounds good. There is no reason why it can't sound good. So,
well, that's great. I want to thank everyone for attending today's webinar. And a big thank you to Gordon for your time today. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
And a thank you to Matt Collera, who's with the TC Furlong team, for help facilitating all the technical side of the webinar today. We always appreciate you, Matt. Before we go, I'd like to make an announcement of our next webinar series, which is going to be with DPA in February. We're going to send a link out to everyone that signed up here. That's going to be February 23rd. We'll be discussing their body worn, head worn, and instrument microphone options. We hope you can join us. But thanks again for attending today's webinar. There is going to be a brief exit survey that Matt will link in the chat as well. Feel free to drop any questions that you still might have, or send us an email at sales@tcfurlong. Again, we're going to be posting this on our YouTube page, so we'll make sure to send that out, send a link out once that's up and running. Thanks again, Gordon. We appreciate it.
Sure. You're welcome.